Think you know everything about ancient Egypt? Think again. This mysterious civilization is one of the most fascinating in human history, but many of the things you've heard about it might just be myths. From the pyramids to the pharaohs, the truth is far stranger, more surprising, and more intriguing than what you've been told. Buckle up, because we're about to uncover the 10 biggest myths of ancient Egypt. Myth number 1. Cleopatra was Egyptian. Let's start with one of the most famous figures in ancient history, Cleopatra. Many people think she was Egyptian, but that's simply not true. In fact, Cleopatra was of Greek descent, coming from the Ptolemaic dynasty, which was a Greek royal family that ruled Egypt after Alexander the Great's death. Her family had ruled Egypt for over 300 years, and Cleopatra was the last of them. So, while she ruled Egypt, she was Greek by heritage, not Egyptian. But here's the twist. Cleopatra was so brilliant that she learned the Egyptian language and embraced many Egyptian customs, even presenting herself as the goddess Isis to the people. So, while she wasn't technically Egyptian, she definitely became an iconic figure in Egyptian history. Myth number 2. The pyramids were built by slaves. We've all heard the story of slaves dragging massive blocks to build the pyramids, but this popular image is far from the truth. Recent archaeological discoveries have shown that the workers who built the pyramids were actually skilled laborers, not slaves. These workers were well-fed and lived in nearby workers' villages. They were highly organized and employed by the government for this monumental task. Imagine it. These were dedicated individuals who took pride in building the tombs for their pharaohs, not just slaves forced into labor. And the work wasn't as grueling as we think. The construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza took around 20 years, and it was done with incredible precision and teamwork. Myth number 3. Ancient Egyptians worshipped cats as gods. It's true that cats were highly revered in ancient Egypt, but did they worship them as gods? Not exactly. The Egyptians didn't worship cats per se. Rather, they worshipped a goddess called Bastet, who was depicted as a lioness or a woman with the head of a lioness or cat. Bastet was the goddess of home, fertility, and protection. Cats were associated with her because of their ability to protect food stores from pests like mice, making them valuable companions. So, while they treated cats with the utmost respect, so much so that killing a cat, even by accident, was punishable by death, they weren't worshipped as divine beings in the literal sense. Myth number 4. Everyone in ancient Egypt was mummified. It's a common belief that everyone in ancient Egypt was mummified, but that's not the case. Mummification was an expensive process and only reserved for the wealthy or elite. The majority of the population wasn't mummified at all. Instead, they were buried in simple graves, and their bodies were left to decay. Only the pharaohs, high-ranking officials, and wealthy individuals could afford the elaborate mummification process, which was meant to preserve the body for the afterlife. Mummification itself was a highly specialized skill. The process took weeks and involved removing internal organs, drying the body out, and then wrapping it meticulously in linen. This wasn't something that just anyone could afford. Myth number 5. The pyramids took thousands of years to build. People often think the Great Pyramid of Giza took centuries to build, but that's not true either. While it is an incredible feat of engineering, it was completed in just 20 years. The construction team of skilled workers and architects used ramps, levers, and a variety of tools to lift the massive stones. Contrary to popular belief, the Great Pyramid was built with a remarkable degree of planning and precision. In fact, the pyramid was originally encased in smooth white limestone, which would have made it shine brightly in the sun. The idea of pyramids taking thousands of years to complete is more of a romanticized myth than a historical fact. Myth number 6. Everyone in ancient Egypt had a pyramid. Another misconception is that every important person in Egypt had their own pyramid. While the Great Pyramids at Giza are certainly the most famous, they were the exception, not the rule. Only the most powerful figures in society, like the Pharaohs, could afford such monumental tombs. Most Egyptians were buried in simpler structures, such as mastabas, which were flat-roof tombs made of mud brick or stone. The pyramid's association with grandeur is largely tied to the notion of immortality, as pharaohs were seen as divine beings, whose tombs would carry their legacy into the afterlife. Myth number 7. The Sphinx's nose was shot off by Napoleon's soldiers. The legendary story of Napoleon's soldiers shooting off the nose of the Great Sphinx. While this tale is widespread, it's simply not true. Historical records suggest that the nose of the Sphinx was already missing long before Napoleon ever set foot in Egypt. Some historians believe that the nose was destroyed during the Middle Ages, possibly by a Sufi Muslim who was outraged by the Sphinx being idolized. It's an iconic image to think of Napoleon's soldiers causing the damage, but the truth is a bit more complex and far older than we originally thought. Myth number 8. Ancient Egyptians were obsessed with death. While ancient Egyptians placed great importance on the afterlife, they were not obsessed with death. Their focus was more about life, particularly ensuring that they lived well enough in this world to have a successful afterlife. The concept of immortality was tied to the idea that the soul, or Ka, needed a proper resting place in order to thrive in the next world. The elaborate tombs and mummification rituals were designed to ensure the dead had all they needed to continue their journey into the afterlife, not because the Egyptians were preoccupied with death. It was more about making sure life continued beyond death. Myth number 9. King Tut's tomb was full of riches. While King Tut's tomb did contain many treasures, it wasn't as rich as many people believe. In fact, his tomb was surprisingly modest when compared to other pharaohs, and it was actually robbed at least twice before it was sealed off. King Tut's tomb, discovered by Howard Carter in 1922, contained treasures like golden masks, chariots, and jewelry, but it wasn't the treasure hoard some myths suggest. What's fascinating is that Tutankhamun was only a young boy when he became pharaoh, and his tomb reflected his brief reign. The real treasures of ancient Egypt were found in the tombs of other, more powerful rulers. Myth number 10. Ancient Egypt was all about pyramids and tombs. Finally, there's the myth that ancient Egypt's entire history is defined by pyramids, tombs, and mummies. While the pyramids are a significant part of Egyptian culture, ancient Egypt was so much more than just its monumental tombs. It was a thriving civilization with groundbreaking achievements in medicine, mathematics, astronomy, and literature. The Egyptians were pioneers in understanding the human body, creating early surgical techniques, and building complex calendars to track the stars. Their contributions to writing, art, and architecture have had a lasting impact on the world long after the pyramids were built. They didn't just leave behind tombs, they left behind ideas that shaped the world. Ancient Egypt is full of myths, but separating fact from fiction reveals a fascinating civilization that was as complex as it was remarkable. From the real Cleopatra to the true story of the pyramids, we've uncovered some of the biggest misconceptions about this ancient culture. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss out on more incredible stories from the past. The real truth about ancient Egypt is waiting to be discovered.